car comes right at the intro.
Yep.
Hey, everybody, welcome to Geek Addicts, the pop culture podcast where Matt does intros better than me because my brain's a mess right now. How you doing, Matt?
I'm doing all right. And to be fair, I flubbed the last one, so
That's fair. I mean, that's our show.
yeah,
It's supposed to be kind of raw like that.
yeah. So if you didn't notice, just in case it comes up to you or any of the video listeners, my beard is uneven right now, and that's because I found a tick under my beard earlier today. So my wife had to cut out a chunk of my beard to get at it. So now
That
it's all choppy. I'm gonna have to shave it all off now.
that's always never good.
Yeah.
It's like that Drake and Josh episode where like Josh has the mustache and then like they shave off half of it, so he draws in half of it with marker. But then like everyone thinks it looks dumb, so he shaves off the other half, but he can't get the marker half off. So they
Classic.
draw it. So they just draw in the other half.
Classic. I
uh,
forgot all about that episode.
I don't know why that just comes to mind, but that was the
Jeez.
thing.
I
Uh,
despite the kind of somber tone of this week, I did get some pretty good news that the Dragon Ball Super hiatus apparently is only for this month. It will be coming back in May, so that's cool.
that's good. Yeah, if anyone's wondering, I guess at the time of this episode's recording, because GNC, Geek Addicts, 3DO, they all kind of have 3DO is the only one that releases consistently the day of every week. Geek Addicts were kind of ahead a few weeks, a few days, a couple weeks, and then 3 GNC's ahead a couple of weeks. Unfortunately, Alex's cat, Tilly, uh, passed away last night. And yeah, it's been a rough week for everyone involved. Um, yeah, so you've probably by this point already seen the messages on Twitter and everything, but yeah, if everyone could just like send their energy to her because she's having a really rough time right now.
Yeah, for sure. I can imagine.
Yeah, and then the rest of my week was just being exhausted because I swear, like when it rains a lot, it just like completely just kills any of your energy for the week.
Yeah, it's between that and my mom usually takes my daughter every other weekend, and that's like my one day to sleep.
Mm-hmm.
And last weekend was supposed to be the weekend, but through a series of prior engagements that my mom had, she wasn't able to. So I'm this is my third week without having that one day. So
Yeah,
and today in particular she was rough. So I'm uh I'm struggling a little bit myself when it comes to rest.
I hear you. I can say I finally turned the heat off, so that was a good sign.
There you go. Yeah, it
So
was definitely on the warmer side this week. I'm happy about that.
yeah, it was up to 70 in Connecticut on Tuesday.
Oh really? We
Um,
got up to like the low 60s, which is still really good, but
hmm.
um,
Anything's better than snow at this
for real.
point.
Um, I do want to preface the episode just with a preemptive apology. I've been fighting a cough all week. I dosed myself with Dayquil, and I have a handful of cough drops here just in case. But I'm going to try to fight it off as much as I can while we're recording. But there is the possibility that I might just go off on a coughing spurt.
It's all right. People watching the video version are going to be like, why does Bill look like he's like has aged like 2 years over in the corner there? I have not slept great in a while, but and
Yeah,
especially yesterday. Like oh,
I can imagine.
but yeah. Other than that, though, I've kind of taken an anime break for a bit because you know how you'll get animate out every
Mm-hmm.
now and then. You need to move on from to other things. I've recently gotten back into American comics,
Mm-hmm.
so that has been kind of my hobby lately. And boy, did I miss a lot
I
going on.
imagine. I imagine.
Like I didn't realize Wally West was the main Flash again,
Oh,
which I'm all for because he's the best Flash. But
fair enough.
um,
Yeah, I've been kind of like in a weird state with anime too. Like I've watched a few new shows here and there, like new to me at least. Um but mostly I don't know. I've been kind of like not necessarily veering away from anime, but a lot of times when I have been watching it, I've mostly been rewatching old stuff or um, catching up on stuff that I've already like. I've been rewatching Kai. Well, I tried to rewatch the last arc of Yu-Gi-Oh in preparation for this episode, but just through you know, weekly bullshit, I was only able to get through like maybe 2/3 of it. So I mean,
Yeah.
I got a decent amount, but at the same time, like the English dub of that arc probably isn't the most accurate anyway, which is why I'd like at some point like to cover the manga part of it. But
Yeah. Nah, my problem with anime right now is I don't want to jump into a show when I just don't have the time commitment at the moment to actually get into it. And that's the thing about anime is when you watch it, you really want to pay attention to what you're watching.
yeah, for sure.
It's not like I can just throw on some like Mythbusters or something in the background and just use it as background noise while I do other things.
Hmm. Yeah,
Yeah,
I did watch a new one this week though because the English dub for Sandland dropped.
I saw that. I gotta get around to it. Hopefully, one of these weeks will calm down enough so I can actually watch some stuff. But
It's only 7 episodes,
hmm,
so it's fairly short. I mean, it's pretty much just the movie chopped up in episodes, and then there's one more extra episode which is supposed to be like leading into another arc that was made specifically for the series. So
hmm, that's
it's
good.
pretty cool though.
I did get the Sandland manga book recently, so
Oh yeah, that's right.
because they just re-released it.
Nice. Um,
Uh,
yeah, is the Sandland series? It looked a lot like the superhero movie, like the animation style it was pretty much all CG, but it looked like almost exactly like it. But obviously, like the aesthetic of it was different because it was a completely different setting and everything. But all told, though, the animation was really nice, and
hmm,
I really like the opening theme. It's pretty good.
nice, very good. Um, yeah, not much else to add this week. It was just one of those unfortunate weeks where nothing great really happened. But
Mhm.
um, for this Friday, though, we're going to continue our Yu-Gi-Oh discussion that we alluded to
Yes, yes.
because we did not have enough time last week to cover everything, and Yu-Gi-Oh is like a rabbit hole that never ends.
Yeah, which you wouldn't think it is when it's a TV show about card games. You wouldn't think it would be that immersive or wouldn't have as much depth to it. Which a lot of people watching the English version wouldn't think it has a lot of depth, but there's a lot more than you would think.
You know, it's funny. We didn't mention it at all during the last episode, but do you so obviously Yu-Gi-Oh was a big threat to Magic the Gathering at the time, which was and still probably is the definitive card game, like most the dominant card game out there right now.
Mhm.
Um, that game has always been notably created by Wizards of the Coast. And do you remember Wizard of the Coast's attempt at a Yu-Gi-Oh competitor?
No.
So do you remember Duel Masters at all?
Oh yes, yes, I do remember Dual Masters.
So Duel Masters, I believe, was Wizards of the Coast's attempt at copying Yu-Gi-Oh, basically.
Oh, I didn't realize that was the same people as Magic.
I believe it is. I might be completely wrong on that, but I swear that's where because I think Duel Masters is basically just Magic the Gathering, but anime looking.
It's about right.
Um, yeah, Duel Masters was a thing that I remember thinking the whole time, like this is just like the most shameless Yu-Gi-Oh ripoff ever.
Yeah, even just using the word duel was just like I don't
It
know, I just
was
feel like it was really going out there.
it was very much like one of those things, like even like the main protagonist, like just like very
Uh,
Yugi looking.
I'm getting a lot of glare. I can't really see it.
Eh, I try. I mean, this. Uh, nah, it's not gonna work.
Yeah, a little bit, but I can kind of see the hair.
Either way, very much a Yu-Gi-Oh looking style. I mean, I might be pulling this out of my butt, but I swear this was like a very much a an attempt at basically competing with Yu-Gi-Oh.
Mm-hmm.
Which
it's kind of funny because I remember when I first heard about Magic the Gathering, like some people were talking about, like, oh, like, do you collect Magic cards or whatever? I'm like, well, yeah, I got Magic cards, I got Trap cards, I got, what are you talking about? I got all sorts of cards.
oh
And
yeah,
like it just didn't click in my head whenever somebody said Magic cards. I'm like, I mean, they call them spell cards now, but yeah.
So I just did look it up. The Duel Masters trading card game was made by Wizards of the Coast,
Mm-hmm.
in conjunction with Tomy over in Japan.
Okay.
But yeah, it was definitely, just looking at it, you can tell it was very much a attempt at competing with Yu-Gi-Oh, which was the dominant card game at the time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I always remember that one. I just thought it was funny. Like that was like probably the most blatant.
Yeah, I'd say so. Um, yeah, I don't know. It just Yu-Gi-Oh was such a weird monster, really. It still is, really. It's still going, so I can't even say was.
Yeah, like God, the anime is still going. The cards are still the card game is barely recognizable these days.
Yeah, for sure.
With how many different synchro monsters and other weird shit that I have. It's too complicated for me now, so I'm out. But
See, I can wrap my head around the synchro monsters. It's like when you start getting into like Pendulum and Link and all that. Like what even is this?
anything beyond the original game is too complicated for me, and I'm just like, nah, I'm good.
I feel that.
If I want complicated like stuff like this, I'll just go play an RPG or something.
Yeah, no kidding. So yeah, we left off with
Waking the
kind of talking
Dragons.
about Waking the Dragons. Yeah,
Like we mentioned how that. Well, I mentioned how I don't like this arc very much at all. Mostly because it starts off on a pretty low note with the Egyptian god cards getting stolen like within like an episode. Yugi's grandfather getting fucking beaten up again.
Which ironically is how the next arc starts as well.
He really is the punch. See, Alex really was right when he has the most punchable face in the series.
I'd say it's probably a tie between him and Mokuba.
True.
Because that arc also starts with Mokuba being kidnapped again.
Of course. You know what really pisses me off about the god cards getting stolen and Yugi's grandfather getting beaten up?
What's that?
It was by fucking Weevil and Rex, of all people, too.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes, they were brainwashed by the Seal of Orichalcos bullshit, but still.
Yeah, just I don't know. I mean, there was some things about that arc that I kind of liked, but at the same time, like some of those things that I did like kind of get erased with the following arc, the final arc.
Yeah, I mean, the thing about this arc, to me, a lot of like just by watching it is like you can clearly tell this was just filler.
Yeah,
because like nothing from this arc sticks for the most part when we get to the actual final arc.
Yeah, which for the record, for anybody who already knows, there was a small like little mini arc in between Waking the Dragons and the final. But there's really nothing to say about it. It's just another little tournament, and
yeah,
it's really inconsequential.
I always remember how it starts where they're just all chilling after Yugi gets his body back from the seal. And they're all just chilling there, and then like the little girl from season 1 is there, and but now she likes Yugi for whatever reason.
Yeah, and then some other random chick shows up, and she's got a super boner for Yugi too.
Yugi is swimming in mad bitches?
He's got bullshit main character powers that just comes to the territory.
But do they actually like Yugi, or do they just like the Pharaoh? I think Tay is the one that's debatable.
Yeah, Tay is debatable. I think the other two just like Yugi because he's like the top dog.
Yeah.
But yeah, so the last arc, I think it's called Dawn of the Duel. As when we jump back in.
Holy plot dump the arc.
Yeah, right. Because it starts off with like this really like kind of horror movie type of scene with Bokora like fighting with his evil side or whatever. Excuse me. And like ultimately, so Rex and Weevil come in, they steal the shit again, but they steal the bag with all the Millennium items in it because Yugi just at this point has like a bunch of them.
Yeah, that's true because he gets the ring, he gets the rod, the eye, the necklace.
So the evil spirit of the ring. This is the part that kind of confuses me a little bit because Bakura shows up and takes the ring, but he was already evil Bakura when he showed up. So if the evil Bakura is in the ring, then
well, isn't it kind of like in season 1 where Tristan throws the damn thing off the roof and it still somehow makes its way back to him?
Yeah, it just kind of like appears around his neck again. But this time you actually see him take it from the bag and put it back on. So it's like, what's going on here?
It's like I think I read that it's like the ring is just like permanently bonded to him or something.
I mean, I guess that kind of makes sense, but and also this is you also find out that the evil spirit's name is also Bakura, which is just weird. Like, what are the odds of that?
Probably more symbolism and fate shit like Yugi and Kaiba and everything.
Something like that. I don't know. But yeah, so he takes the ring back and then he dips out. And then he goes and challenges Kaiba, and then he dips out of that duel like midway through. Because I guess he just wanted to like steal Blue Eye's power, and then he gives him the Millennium Eye because apparently that's gonna convince him to go to Egypt.
Just have Pegasus's eye. Like that'll do it.
Yeah, right? And he's like, here's that thing that stole your soul that one time.
Yeah. And how did he steal power from a hologram? Or are we getting into weird magic bullshit now?
Well, I mean, you can make an argument in this case because if you're using a Millennium item, then the monsters can be real.
That's true.
So you can make an argument for that. But so yeah, ultimately they all go to Egypt, and like I guess the way that it was supposed to be was the pharaoh was supposed to show the Egyptian god cards to the big stone tablet, and that was supposed to get him his memory back. But instead, he got sucked into the world of his memories, so he got sent back to ancient Egypt on the day of his coronation to become pharaoh.
Yeah, this arc is where shit just gets like, wild. the first like the first 4 arcs, yeah, like everything up to this point was pretty straightforward for the most part. Waking the Dragons got a little wacky at times, but for the most part everything made sense. Like it was pretty like plot starts here, ends here, like no crazy plot going on. This one straight up starts and it's like exposition now.
Yeah. Like, so yeah, so it jumps back and he's in ancient Egypt now. Everybody else is just back at the stone tablet, like what the hell happened and shit. And ultimately they end up going there too. Kaiba shows up, he gets sent back. Remember way back before when Bakura put a little piece of his soul into the Millennium Puzzle? Well, that's how he ended up in ancient Egypt as well, because that little piece followed the pharaoh. Yeah. So it just came this whole convoluted thing where everybody who matters in this show ended up in ancient Egypt. And this is where Bakura really solidifies himself as the true G villain of Yu-Gi-Oh! Because literally the way he shows up in this arc, he raids the pharaoh's father's tomb, steals a bunch of shit, and drags his corpse to the coronation.
Yes.
Like, and this is a kid's show. 4 kids allowed that. Like
4 kids allowed that, but One Piece was too much.
Yeah, right? It's ridiculous. But that was like the first time I saw that. Yu-Gi-Oh! Was much like Yu Yu Hakusho for me. Like I watched a bunch of it growing up, but I only saw like the first half. Because actually in both cases, the big tournament was where I stopped. So when Battle City was over, I didn't watch any more of that until I was older. So I watched all this for the first time as an adult, or at least late teenager. I'm not 100% sure, but um, yeah, I was not expecting that level of like villainy. Like, I mean, you see a lot of villain stuff throughout the show, but
I
most of
find
it. Hmm?
the massive irony behind Bakura is like he's like the big villain of the series in like greater scope villain, but like regular Bakura, like the actual kid, he is so pathetic, like all the
Mhm.
time. Like
Yeah,
when he got run over by the inflatable ball in the first season,
yeah, I forgot about that.
he gets like the shit kicked out of him in like Battle City, and that's why he's like fucked up
Yeah.
there. Um, and we'll get to Dark Side of Dimensions later.
Mhm. But yeah, there was just that. There was so much about this art that I like. You get a lot of backstory, like when the pharaoh shows up in the past, he's looking around at all of his, like, I guess, apostles, his priests, I guess, and like half of them are just ancient versions of people he knows in the future.
Yeah, because then one of them Joey, one of them Taya, like a bunch of stuff like that.
No, they're not. They don't have any ties to ancient Egypt.
Oh no, I'm thinking of
Uh,
I'm thinking of Forbidden Memories, the
yeah,
game.
it's there's the ancient Kaiba, which we all expected. There's an Ishizu, an Odeon, and Yugi's grandfather.
Yes, I think Yugi's grandfather is actually the guy that's like in Forbidden Memories in particular. He's actually the guy at the start of the game that's kind of like shrouded in like mystery.
Yeah, he's got the mask.
Yeah, and he looks like he's got blue skin, but he's actually it's just that it's supposed to imply that it's shadows.
Yeah, it's I think they pronounce it Shimon, but it's spelled Simon.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, you meet all of them, and this is where it gets kind of wonky because Waking the Dragons made it seem like there's a whole alternate universe where all these monsters live, and that's where they come from. But almost immediately after jumping into this arc, you find out that no, these monsters are actually born of human hatred, and they're tied to an individual's soul.
Somehow I feel like the team that wrote Waking the Dragons wrote the season based off of like everything that happened in the first couple seasons and didn't actually read the manga to find out what happens later.
Mhm. So so yeah, like that's kind of where how you find out where everything comes from. Like for instance, Exodia was the monster for Simone,
Hmm.
and that's kind of where that connection is made. How Yuki's grandpa had the Exodia cards and all that. But like already, just in like this first like episode or two of this arc, way more interesting than anything that came before it.
Yeah, it's almost like it's a different show all of a sudden.
It really is because in this whole arc, not counting the final duel between Yugi and the Pharaoh, there's two card games in the whole arc.
You know what the first half of Yu-Gi-Oh reminds me of as a show? Like it's very similar to
What's that?
the original Beyblade show,
Yeah, yeah, I've
where
heard
it's
that.
like there is like character interaction and stuff, but it's mostly about the Beyblade battles.
Mhm.
They're very similar in that regard. And then like I think they also get surprisingly deep the farther they go in, like as well. So
See, I watched Beyblade as a kid and I loved it, but I didn't follow it as closely as I did with Yu-Gi-Oh.
Beyblade just got too ridiculous for me after a while. Like we're at the point where like there's a door and they're using the Beyblade to open a door, and it's like you could have just opened the fucking door. Like
That's fair.
like stuff like that.
um, I
Actually,
mean,
I think
Yu-Gi-Oh is equally ridiculous with that kind of shit.
true.
But
I think the moment where I lost it with Beyblade was when there was the entire team based around sports and they were using tennis rackets to launch their Beyblades at one point.
Jesus Christ. Well, for me, it wasn't even the reason why it was more difficult for me to follow along with Beyblade is because it was only on like
Fox,
ABC Family or something, and it was at like
Fox Kids.
far or something like that. But it was only on at like 5 o'clock in the morning. So
Yep,
like,
right after I forget the first show. It was like it was
was it Captain Planet?
something like that. You watch your Beyblade, then you watch your Power Rangers, and then your Digimon. That was Saturday morning every week.
Yeah. So it was always on super early, so that's why I didn't catch it as often. I would like to go through at least that first series again.
Yeah, the Beyblade V Force and G Revolution, I believe.
Yeah, with like the one that the GBA game I have is based on.
Yeah, it's those three. The original series with the forget what the main character's name is at this point, but
Uh, Tyson.
that sounds right.
I only remember that I played the game recently. That's the only reason I know.
Oh, that reminds me too, because there was also that NASCAR cartoon that was on Fox Kids at around the time.
Oh yeah, it's
That
mentioned
was
in
a thing.
cartoons back in the day.
That was a thing. The cars used buzzsaws. It was really like, what the fuck am I watching here?
Hmm.
Uh,
So yeah, when it really starts going deep into like the history of like you learn about like the origin of a lot of the monsters, like you find out that the Blue Eyes White Dragon's origin is actually it was the soul monster of ain't well Seto's girlfriend. I gotta be careful there because ancient Kaiba is just Seto.
yeah.
Um,
So the blue eyes is the spirit of his girlfriend.
yeah, and she has blue
It
eyes and white hair.
it makes so much sense why is obsessed with that card.
Yeah, he like saved her from like slavers or something.
It makes so
Um,
much sense.
when they were kids, and then they meet up later on, and it's this whole thing. Um, you learn the origin of the Millennium items, which apparently they were created by sacrificing a village, which makes them very similar to Philosopher's Stones in Full Metal Alchemist.
Yes,
Um,
a little.
but see, and this is where it gets kind of mixy because I've only ever watched it, and I've only watched the Four Kids dub, so I don't know how accurate a lot of this is.
Probably not super accurate knowing four kids.
Because there's a lot of contradictions, and I don't know if that's in the bones of it or if it's just as a result of dubisms. Um, but like for instance, like in the show, they say that it's like the whole village was evil, and that's why they had to be sacrificed. It was all evil souls that went into them, and that's why they have such dark powers and all this other stuff. But I mean, it could have just been a random village. But
True.
basically, the the previous pharaoh, which would be Atem's father, his brother figured out a plan to go and kill this whole village, use them as sacrifices, like a ritual, to create the Millennium items because there was this big force that was going to attack Egypt and kill everybody and take over whatever. So they were going to make the Millennium items so that they could summon all these monsters and take them out, which ended up working beautifully. Only they missed one. Little kid Bakura was there, and he saw everything, and he did not forget.
So he became the big bad of the franchise.
Yes, but then you also find out that Pharaoh, previous Pharaoh's brother, who did all this, also Seto's father. So there is like the big connection between Yugi and Kaiba, between the Pharaoh and Seto, is their cousins.
Yeah.
And that kind of creates this whole thing where Seto's dad kind of gets corrupted by Bakura, and he kind of turns into a monster and is like mind controlling it. It's this whole weird thing.
This series is weird.
It is. I didn't take notes on it or anything, and like I said, I didn't finish it, so I'm kind of half going based on memory and half going off of freshly watched but no notes. So
The thing I always remembered about this season was because it's been probably a decade since I've watched it. Because anytime I rewatch Yu-Gi-Oh, I get up to Battle City. Well, I finish Battle City, I should say. I get to Waking the Dragons, and I just kind of stop. So I never get beyond that. And like I've only ever watched it all the way through, probably like twice, and it's been a long time. I do.
Well,
go on.
I was just gonna say I would recommend just like at least just for this, just start with the beginning of this arc and just watch this arc as its own thing. It's worth it just on its own.
So just skip all the bullshit and go right to it, basically.
I mean, it's really, it's like you said, it's really like a different show altogether. There's only
Mm.
2 card games, and one of them is only an episode long.
The one duel I remember the most from this arc is the final battle, like the final duel between Yugi and Atem.
Mm-hmm.
Just because that was a great final send off, because you really got to see how much Yugi's grown as a character.
Yeah, for sure. Um.
Isn't Atem in the manga like kind of a douche?
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, when you look at season 0,
True.
that's that's how the manga starts. So that's pretty much how he was.
Yeah, like he
But
wasn't a great character at all.
I mean, but also I feel like at that point he was kind of more reactive because he would only really come out if some bullshit was going on and people were being dicks.
True.
And to be fair, most of the fucked up things he did only happened because the person he was playing the game against broke the rules.
Yes.
Like, because there's a penalty if you break the rules in a shadow game, and a lot of those fucked up things he did was just a side product of that. So, like, yeah, he had that darkness about him, and he definitely came off that way. But um, it's not like he, was just fucking people up for the hell of it.
Yeah. No, I get that. I I will say the most iconic scene is like when they send all the puzzle, like all the Millennium Falcons, can't talk. When they send all the Millennium items away at the end, and
Mm,
just the puzzle shattering at the end is like, damn, it's really over.
yeah, yeah, it's pretty wild. Um,
That is a pretty heartbreaking scene though of Yugi saying goodbye to Atem.
mhm. Yeah, it's pretty rough. And then it also kind of like ends like really abruptly too. Like it's weird.
Yeah, thankfully, we got Dark Side of Dimensions later, which kind of expanded on that.
Mhm.
Um, I remember a lot of fans gave like Taya flack for like how she like ran after a pharaoh at the end, and it's like, girl, let him go.
Yeah, right.
He's not even your
You got your man right here.
yeah, the dorkier version over there in the corner.
He gets ripped though. I mean,
He does in GX. Holy fuck! Like,
he fucking hits the gym.
yeah, that's how the original series kind of ends, though. It really, the funniest part is though, like it ends there, and then you realize, oh yeah, they're still in school.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, they say in the series like, "Oh, we've been doing this for 4 years," blah blah blah. So like, I'm wondering were they because they were 14 at the beginning. So would they be in their last year of high school at that
Yeah,
point?
I believe that's like one of the big. Actually, yeah, that's one of the big plot points in Dark Side of Dimensions.
Hmm.
Do you want to just talk about Dark Side Dimensions now? Because it kind of caps off the series.
Sure. It's been a little bit since I watched it, so you might have to remind me of some stuff. But
All right. So Dark Side of Dimensions was kind of a film that came out of nowhere. So by this point, like the original series had been over for a while now. Like we'd already been through GX. 5Ds was already going through. I think they were in Z Axle by this point.
yeah, I think so. At least that
Um,
far.
and this wasn't even the first real comeback of the original series either, because they had done that crossover movie with like Jaden Yugi, and the guy from 5Ds, I believe.
Hmm.
Which was okay. I don't love that movie as much as I like Dark Side of Dimensions, but it was fine.
I like it for what it is. I'm not a huge fan of the 3D monsters, like the CGI monsters. It just doesn't look right to me.
Yeah, Dark Side of Dimensions thankfully doesn't really do as much of that.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, going back to Dark Side of Dimensions now, this was this movie kind of was standalone. It's an interesting place because it's technically based directly off the manga, not so much the original anime,
Hmm.
but it does kind of take place right after the end of the original anime, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And it's essentially the final like story of the, like that original those original characters. And what's really cool is they actually got back pretty much everybody.
Yeah.
Like they got Dan Green back as Yugi, Wayne Grayson as Joey. They also kept their dub names, which is kind of fun.
Yeah.
Um, Eric Stewart as Kaiba, of course. Um, yeah, they brought all of them back and they did an excellent job. Like the animation in this movie is great, and it really felt like a proper send off to the Yu-Gi-Oh as a whole. Um, so basically, the plot is it's kind of like the big overarching theme is that Kaiba is a massive fucking dork in this movie.
Yeah, we always knew that though.
He takes it to another level in this one though.
Hmm.
So like the movie starts essentially where he's looking for the puzzle because he never got to have that final duel with the Atem that he wanted,
Yeah.
and he basically really wants to face off against the Pharaoh again. So he's literally digging up the Millennium Puzzle just to put it back together so he can face off against Atem. And of course that triggers another ancient Egyptian plot where you actually learn the backstory of Shadi of all characters,
That's right. Yeah.
where he was actually a protector of all these children in front of the Millennium Items, and it actually you find out how Bakura, not a Yami Bakura, like the Bakura we know, his father actually went to Egypt and stole the ring, and kind of like resulted in Shadi's death, but also he kind of resulted in the Millennium items being stolen as well. Um, so yeah, he takes the ring, and of course, the ring overpowers him immediately because it's the wrong. He's not the right soul for it, and then it basically sparks off this plot where one of the kids that was there basically goes on this wild plot of revenge and ends up getting intermingled with Yugi and the gang.
Sounds
And
familiar.
there's a whole bunch of battles that go on, a whole bunch of shadow stuff. The final climax is great because you get the puzzle gets rebuilt, but Atem kind of comes back, but he really doesn't, and Kaiba doesn't get to face off against him because, of course, he doesn't.
He kind of just waves through a portal and then leaves.
Yeah, him and Yugi have this kind of nod of like appreciation, and then he goes back to the Shadow World.
Yeah.
And then the movie ends with the most Kaiba thing ever. He builds a fucking time machine to go back in time just to face off against Atem.
Ridiculous.
It's not the best explanation for the movie, but as a movie itself, it is a great time.
Yeah, it was fun when I watched it. I think I only watched it the one time, but this came out what, like 5 or 6 years ago?
I want to say like 2016 ish, maybe.
Oh wow, older than I thought.
Let me check. Dark Side of Dimensions came out, 2016.
Oh wow. All right. Yeah, that's pretty old.
It's been a while. It was a great send off though to the original Yu-Gi-Oh cast and everything.
Yeah, a little bit of a sidetrack here. So Yu-Gi-Oh used to have the rights held by 4Kids, obviously, and these were all like 4Kids actors and stuff that were playing all the parts.
Yes.
So then, 4Kids lost the rights, and then everything Yu-Gi-Oh was made by, or was dubbed by what, Konami?
So fun fact, Konami actually bought the remains of 4Kids.
Okay.
Their dubbing studio. It was named like 4 Licensing Corporation for a while there. It's some division in Konami now, but they use that studio essentially to dub Yu-Gi-Oh stuff now.
Okay, so that might have answered my question then, because I was leading up to being like, all right, well, if 4Kids doesn't own Yu-Gi-Oh anymore, but the Yu-Gi-Oh dub was still able to use all the same actors, then what the hell happened with Pokemon? But
Well, that was the Pokemon company just took over and hired different actors. Um, 4Kids doesn't exist anymore. They've since closed down, so Konami just basically paid the money to get the original actors back.
yeah,
The Pokemon company just flat out hired new actors, probably at a lesser pay rate, and just went on from there.
probably less cheesy actors too.
Maybe they're still pretty cringy in the the current Pokemon dubs, but
Fair enough. I didn't watch much of it, so I can't really speak on it. But oh yeah, but I didn't mention a couple things. Like you learn in that last arc that the the origin behind the Dark Magician was interesting because it was the original holder of the Millennium Ring, the one that Bakura uses. Basically he had a showdown with Bakura and lost, so he like merged his being with his spirit monster, and that's how the Dark Magician came into being.
Huh.
Which is
I'm
kind
sure
of cool.
I'm sure it makes more sense in the actual show.
Yeah. But yeah, I don't know. There was all sorts of stuff in that. I definitely recommend it. It's not even very long, honestly. It's like a little over 20 episodes.
So like a standard anime season.
Yeah. But yeah, going on from there though,
You said you never watched a lot of GX, right?
I caught a couple episodes here and there, but it just I don't know. Maybe it was just so wildly different that it didn't hold my attention. Maybe if I watched it now, it would be different. But
GX is a show that is much better binging than it was trying to watch on TV.
Mm-hmm.
GX is such an interesting idea. Like it's essentially like, what if we turned Yu-Gi-Oh into like a school anime, where they're all in this school that's like legitimately just based around dual monsters, basically.
So what if instead of ditching school to play card games, they go to school to play card games?
Basically, and it's a school set up by Kaiba, and it shows because there's 3 houses, so it's kind of like Harry Potterish in a way too. There's the Slifer Red house. That's the lowest house. I wonder why he chose that one as the lowest.
Yeah.
There's Raw Yellow, the middle house, and then Obelisk Blue is the top house. I wonder why that one's the top house.
Makes sense.
Yeah, and there's like the 3 different groups, and it's kind of like all these different school shenanigans, and then there's typical Yu-Gi-Oh battles. The main character, Jaden Yuki, is kind of like an outsider that shows up. It's fun stuff. It's fun stuff. Like he famously, the first episode gets like the winged Karibo card from this strange ripped individual that you only see from like the nose downward that looks very familiar.
Yep. You can still see enough of that hair though.
Yeah. Oh man, I always remember that because he shows up in the first episode, then we don't see him again until like the final episode. But they reference him a lot.
I'm sure. I mean, it's kind of hard not to mention the champion of the game that you're playing.
Well, like one of the things for winning like winning like one of the tournaments was like you got a copy of Yugi's deck, and it was like, that's cool, I guess.
I don't know how that works though, because his deck is constantly changing.
Yeah. At one point, Yugi's deck is like actually at the school, and some Yugi cosplayer like steals it and pretends to be Yugi for an episode.
That's ridiculous.
Yeah, it is. It's hilarious. And he keeps like chanting about the heart of the cards the whole time, and it's like, dude. And then the payoff is after Jaden beats him, he tells him he's got to find his own personality and look. And then they're all like, I wonder what he actually looks like. And then he shows up and he's cosplaying as Jaden.
That's about right.
Which was pretty funny.
Oh, Jesus.
I will say Jaden Yuki has by far the least bizarre hair out of all the protagonists in the series.
Yeah, I'd say that's accurate. I may not have watched any of the other shows, but I've seen what the protagonists look like. Yeah, they just get more and more ridiculous as it goes along.
The twins from season 1 actually show up in a GX episode.
The double duel guys.
They show up for an episode, and Jaden has to do a double duel with, I think, like the rival character for an episode, which was kind of cool. It's honestly a show that I've heard like the best way to watch it is like from start to finish, because there's a lot of stuff that goes on. I've heard GX is actually a fan favorite these days.
Maybe I'll actually give it a shot one of these days.
Now, I can't tell you anything about 5D Z Axle or whatever the fuck the current season's called.
All I know is that 5Ds is like a post-apocalyptic thing, and they play the card games while riding their motorcycles.
So it's Mad Max with Yu-Gi-Oh.
I guess. I don't know.
Um, that's cool, I guess.
I mean, I don't know. I've heard good things about it, honestly, but
Yeah, I think I just kind of lost interest with Yu-Gi-Oh by that point.
that's fair. I mean, I lost interest by the time GX happened, so can't really blame you.
Fair. Um, so we never talked about the games much
Mhm.
in the last episode. We probably should talk about those to a degree.
Yeah, we'll touch base on them a little bit. How
Uh,
many of them did you play?
I played a healthy amount. So the first one I played was actually Dark Duel Stories on the Game Boy Color.
I still have my copy. Yep, that was the first one I had.
Really nice sprites in that game. Like it looks great, but my god, a running theme you'll see with Yu-Gi-Oh games is the fucking story makes no not the story. The gameplay makes no sense because it doesn't follow the rules.
Yeah, they that's one thing with a lot of the video games is they all kind of make up their own system for it. And it's all like still basically the game, but they change some stuff. They change like what certain cards do. They change how some cards like can be played. Um yeah,
It's just
not
it's
consistent.
it's just different enough to be annoying,
Mhm.
basically.
Yeah,
Um,
and they don't all do it the same way. It's always different in each
yeah,
one.
every game is a free for all,
Mhm.
honestly, including the next game, which was honestly my favorite one, just for nostalgic reasons. Forbidden Memories on the PlayStation.
See, I didn't play that one.
Forbidden Memories is interesting because it's basically it's just the card game. Like there's no like RPG elements or anything. It has a pretty in-depth story that takes some really weird turns.
Mhm.
The thing about Forbidden Memories that makes it so infamous is the fact that it's really hard. Like it's challenging for no reason.
Mhm.
Like a lot of Yu-Gi-Oh games. Um, you can fuse any fucking cards together.
Really?
Yeah, you just you just pick you click up on the two cards and then fuse them, and it just makes some random monster. Um, Also, the biggest like middle finger thing is the you can enter in the codes for the cards in the shop,
Yep.
but every card is absurdly expensive. Like you have to buy them. You can't just get them by entering the code.
Yeah, I think all the games had that feature to some degree. It's like some of them you'd have to buy them, some of them just the cost would be too high because in some of the games like you had like a deck value and like that would go up the more duels you do, but like essentially each card had a certain amount of points that it was worth,
Yeah.
and you couldn't exceed your deck value with the total deck. Um,
Yes.
so there was always like different ways that they would manage that. As yeah, you can pull in the cards that you own in real life, but you won't necessarily be able to use them right away.
Yes. Yeah, it was Forbidden Memories was pretty infamous with that. The best part of Forbidden Memories to me is the actual battle like cinematics because they actually did like the animated cinematics when you played, which was kind of cool for the time.
Mhm. Now this was the precursor to um, Duels of the Roses, correct?
Yes, they're kind of sequels to each other in a sense. Duelist of the Roses, though, is even more interesting because this is where they got really experimental with the games.
Mm-hmm.
Because like Duelist of the Roses, it's basically the same card game, like you know and love. Only now, like instead of the regular playing field, it's like a strategy board.
Yeah, it's like a tactics grid with like
Yeah,
and like they have like different like landscapes in the playing field. So it's like there's like a mountain range in one area and there's an ocean in another area. And it works very much like in Duelist Kingdom where different monsters will get bonuses or will get points taken away depending on where they are.
Yes. Um, honestly, for me, this game, the most interesting Yu-Gi-Oh game in my opinion, probably. But my God, is it cheap as fuck sometimes?
Oh, it's super hard sometimes. It's like almost ungodly. Like I remember like trying to do the same duels over and over, like
No
when I was
matter
like
how
really
s-
struggling.
no matter how smart you are, the AI is always smarter. I swear
Mhm.
to God.
And it kind of had the same deal with like the fusing, where like you press up to like select which ones you want to try and fuse, and like it worked with a lot of them. But if it didn't work, then whatever one you selected first would just kind of go away.
Yeah, in Forbidden Memories, it would just make whatever. Yeah, this one they kind of toned that down, so it's like, yeah, it's not completely random anymore.
Yeah, like you can still fuse things, and a lot of times they're not things that normally fuse together, but um, it's not nearly as kind of just free fly with it as you'd like it to be sometimes.
Yeah, it is by far the most interesting of the Yu-Gi-Oh games by a long shot, but it's
Mhm.
still such a frustrating game to play.
It is. It is one I'd like to give another try at some point. I just don't have a working PS2 at the moment, but and it was never re-released to my knowledge, so
No,
it's locked on that console,
none of the Yu-Gi-Oh games were, unfortunately. Um,
which is a shame, honestly, because some of them are really fun.
oh yeah, to me, my favorite. This game is bad. Like it's not a good game at all. But it is the third game in this quote unquote trilogy of games, following Forbidden Memories and Duels to the Rose. Do you remember the Falsebound Kingdom?
No, I never played that one.
So that one completely just gets rid of the card game, and it's just a strategy game for no reason.
Really?
Yeah, like on GameCube. Like
Oh,
so.
jeez.
Fun fact: if you want to play this trilogy, you need to own a PS1, a PS2, and a GameCube.
Jesus.
Yeah,
Okay.
the game, it's like Yu-Gi-Oh, but like fuck the cards. It's a strategy game now.
Hmm.
It's so weird.
Jesus. Yeah, that's bizarre.
Uh, there
Extremely
was
bizarre.
there was also the Dawn of Destiny on Xbox, but that one was more of just a traditional card game.
Hmm.
I think that was actually the most accurate of the console games at the time.
Yeah, I think Duels of the Roses is the only console game I played. Most of the Yu-Gi-Oh games I played were handheld.
Yeah, and that's where it's actually gets kind of interesting because we had mentioned previously, like we've talked about sacred cards and Reshif of destruction,
Hmm.
and how like they are like the only ones that are kind of like RPGs where you actually walk around the map and like you basically play as a self insert that basically becomes the main character of the Battle City arc.
Yeah.
Um, basically, Sacred Cards is essentially a retelling of Battle City from start to finish. Only you play as yourself,
Hmm.
and it's kind of easy. That's kind of its biggest criticism.
Well, it becomes that way. I think in the early, like while you're still collecting locator cards, I'd say is the more difficult part of the game. And then once you get further on, once you get to the point where you have enough deck points or whatever, your deck limit is high enough, and you can just kind of make whatever deck you want. That's the point where it gets like super easy.
Yeah. Reshef of Destruction, on the other hand, is a direct sequel to Sacred Cards that ignores Waking the Dragons and instead makes its own storyline involving Pegasus going rogue,
Hmm.
um, which is honestly more interesting in hindsight.
Yeah,
But the game is fucking bullshit in every other way.
yeah, because unlike just about any other Yu-Gi-Oh game, your life points don't reset after finishing a duel.
Yes.
So it's literally like a health bar, and if you don't like go back and rest or whatever, then it's just gonna stay where it is.
Also, any rule that makes sense in Yu-Gi-Oh, throw those away because nothing makes sense in this game.
I didn't get far enough into the game to honestly know to
I
that
looked
point.
up I looked up a walkthrough because fuck playing that game.
As soon as I realized that my life points weren't going back up to 8,000, I was like, "Fuck this game," and I put it down.
There's a ROM hack that properly balances the game online. That's probably the way to play it going on nowadays. Um, yeah. Aside from those two, though, there was also all of the other GBA games. Like there was Eternal Duelist Soul.
That one I played. That one I think is the most accurate handheld. Like this is just the game.
I'd say that one or Worldwide Edition, which is the one I had as a kid.
Mhm.
Because Worldwide Edition was essentially you just played in Battle City and you just dueled whoever you ran into. But
Gotcha.
it was literally just the game, like on cards, and it was very accurate to the game, circa like 2005 ish, 4ish, I want to say.
Yeah.
Um, there was also all the different like tournament cartridges. Like there was like Tournament 2003, Tournament 2004.
Yeah, I never touched any of those. I never really understood what the whole deal with those were.
I'm pretty sure they were just Worldwide Edition, but with like different content.
With just like, oh, here's all the new cards that came out in the past 2 years.
Yeah, I think it was like that. Um,
Gotcha.
there was a lot of those. They were basically the most accurate ways to play the game.
Mhm.
The last Yu-Gi-Oh game I really remember picking up was on the DS, which has my favorite name ever in the Yu-Gi-Oh Nightmare Troubadour.
Jesus.
Like, why is that name so awesome?
Pff. Do Do you know why it was called that?
No, I just think it's a cool name.
Excuse me. Uh, this cough is killing me, man.
I hear it. I feel you.
I haven't had a persistent cough like this in forever, and I haven't even been smoking cigarettes, and I haven't smoked cigarettes in 4 months. That's usually what made them last so long. So I don't know what the hell's going on with me.
Hmm. Probably allergies.
Yeah, it could be. Um, but yeah, I think. Did you play Duel Links at all?
Played a bit of it. Never really got super deep into it though.
I played for a long time. I still play every now and then because I still have my original account from when the game was less than a year old.
Wow.
Yeah, I have a lot on that game, so I'm not. I actually made a Konami account so that I wouldn't lose my file.
Ah.
Um, yeah, I played a lot of that game. I was never like super good at all because I don't really keep up with it long term.
Hmm.
But yeah, I have a lot. I have made a lot of decks, a lot of characters.
Yeah,
Um,
it was a cool game to me. I just I couldn't keep up with it every day, so I kind of fell out of it.
yeah, well, there was a point where I was playing it a lot because a lot of the friends that I was hanging out with at the time also had it downloaded, so we would like duel against each other and stuff, and it was a lot more accessible back then when it first came out.
Hmm.
Now, because they've added pretty much every sequel series, so now it has all that pendulum, link summoning, all that crazy shit.
The stuff
So like,
that's just too complicated for me.
yeah. Um, so that kind of complicates things a bit, which is a big part of the reason why I don't play as much anymore. But every now and then I jump back into it and I'll see what's going on. Like right now, I think it's like the 7 year anniversary or something. So
Hmm.
I've been jumping in just to get like the daily rewards and stuff, all the like exchange tickets and random shit like that.
Hmm. Yeah, I'm trying to think of other games. I think that's kind of where I stopped with them.
Mhm. Well, there was a
Um,
Master Duel on the Switch, which is a free game. And it's pretty much the same thing as Duel Links, only it's not like the speed duel version where it's like it's literally like the full deck size, full play field size. It's just literally the game.
hmm. Yeah, I didn't play a lot of that one.
Yeah, I barely touched that one honestly. At that point, I put so much time into Duel Links, and I was so used to playing with like the reduced deck size and everything, and it just made more sense to me.
Yeah. Honestly, like Yu-Gi-Oh was really one of those like fads that kind of like it was huge for a while and then it just kind of fell off and kind of became just another thing in the the giant sea of popular content.
Yeah, it's still technically around. People still play it. People still, I mean, I still will watch a little bit here and there. My little brother watches it still, and he's 21. So, and he watches the original too, which kudos to him.
I mean, yeah, I'll pop the original in every now and then, just to get a laugh every now and like, or I'll watch like the abridged series or something.
Mm-hmm. Before we jump into like the abridged series stuff, I'm curious. Do you have any like your best pulls, like getting card packs and stuff? Like, do you have any specific memories of like a really good pull?
I think I got a couple of red eyes over the years. That was a big because I remember like there was a point where like everyone had like was like hunting for like a blue eyes, and I ended up getting a red eyes in a pack and not from the Joey deck, which was kind of cool.
Yeah, it's always cool getting one of those cards from a pack.
I think other than that, I don't have it anymore, sadly, but I got the red Dark Magician in one of those packs at one point.
Oh, nice.
That was kind of cool.
Yeah, I didn't have the best luck with a lot of those packs, but I did get some of the good ones. Like I think I pulled a Jinzo once.
Oh, I remember my biggest pull was I got the 500 dragon in a pack.
Nice. There you go.
It was such a random like pull, but I never got anything better than that.
I don't think I ever got any of like the main cards, like the Red Eyes, Dark Magician, Blue Eyes, but I did get a Summon Skull in a pack once.
That's cool.
And there was one time I had just enough money to get like 2 or 3 packs. And this was right after the Invasion of Chaos pack came out. And I got those 2 or 3 packs. And in those packs, I got, I think, 2 Dark Magician of Chaoses and a Blackluster Soldier Envoy of the End or whatever. It was when the new versions of both of those cards came out. The ones that weren't ritual cards. And I got 2 of one and 1 of the other in those 3 packs.
Nice.
Which, personally, Magician of Black Chaos is my favorite card.
Mine is. That's a good question. I think it's still Red Eyes. I think Red Eyes is still my favorite card.
Red Eyes is definitely up there.
I mean, I was gonna ask you what's your favorite like line of cards. Like for me, it's still like the Red Eyes line because it's just so versatile.
Yeah, and there's so many different versions of it now. Like there's like the Red Eyes Zombie Dragon, the Red Eyes Darkness Dragon.
Even like just fusion wise, like you got obviously Black Skull Dragon, the Black Meteor Black Dragon, where that one's cool.
Yeah, for that reason alone, I generally tend to run Red Eyes a lot because my preferred play style is fusion decks, and there's just so much, like you said, there's just so much versatility with Red Eyes.
There's a Red Eyes Toon Dragon now.
Mm-hmm. There's the Red Eyes Black Chick.
Red Eyes Black Chick. Black Metal Dragon.
Yep. Yeah, there's a bunch of different variations now. There's like.
I'm surprised they didn't do an ultimate ultimate Red Eyes or whatever.
Well, like a 3-headed type of deal.
Yeah, just some sort of fusion like that, just to play off the Blue Eyes.
Well, I think the Red Eyes Darkness Dragon was supposed to be kind of like the answer to that.
True.
Because I think that one works in a similar way to like Buster Blader, where he has more attack points depending on how many dragons have been used.
Yeah, something like that. I'd have to go find my card.
So I think he gains like 300 for every dragon that's been played up to that point.
It's funny in hindsight thinking about it, like if you want to play Red Eyes Black Metal Dragon, you'd have to have a Metal Morph card in your deck. Mm-hmm. And you'd literally just have the Metal Morph there just to play Black Metal Dragon, so you might as well keep a Zoa in your deck as well.
Yeah. Yeah, that's kind of like a lot of the ways that I ended up playing too, because like if I ended up running like a Red Eyes deck, I would always end up just throwing a Buster Blader in there too because there'd be so many dragons.
Yeah.
And then like there's a fusion with Buster Blader where if you fuse him with a dragon card, he I think has 2,800 attack and he gains 1,000 points for every dragon, which is ridiculous. Which he can't attack directly, but he does piercing damage. So he just like absolutely wrecks.
I have to say too, I love my Magnet Warriors.
Mm.
There's more of them now. I found out, so I have to track those down now.
Yeah, Delta. Delta's the shit. That's the one you want.
Yeah.
Mm.
I still loved it. I still remember getting my Magnet Warriors out of they came with Duelist of the Rose.
Yep.
And Valkyrian came from another set. I can't remember which one.
Not sure. What cards did Sacred Cards come with? I know that one came with cards too.
I can't remember off the top of my head. I know Forbidden Memories came with Black Metal Dragon, Metal Morph, and I think the Claw upgrade card. Oh no, I think it was the Crush card actually.
I don't know if I ever got my hands on one of those.
The Crush card was not nearly as effective in game as it was in the anime.
Yeah, well, it was used in Duelist Kingdom, so you kind of have to take its effect in that with a grain of salt.
Yeah, because in Duelist Kingdom, it was like the biggest like middle finger, like your game is over card.
Yeah,
it was not nearly as useful in the actual game. It's like Toon World. It totally doesn't work like that.
Yeah. Although Relinquished, ironically, Relinquished, the more broken card, does work like that.
Yeah, Relinquished was a weird card.
Mm.
Did they ever ban that, or is it still usable?
I don't think so.
Because then there was also if you fused it with the Thousand-Eyed Idol, you got Thousand-Eyed Restrict, which was also kind of broken.
Yep, it's the same thing, only it also like paralyzes your bonus monsters. It does everything Relinquished does and more.
There's a reason why Pegasus was the only person that had one of those. Pegasus's deck was literally filled with broken fuck you cards. I just realized that.
I think it's kind of funny that Pegasus had one eye and his like main monster was a monster with 1,000 eyes.
Yeah. Well, all of his monsters had like that had the Millennium Eye in their design. Because there was also that weird one that like also looked like Relinquished but didn't really do anything.
Yeah. I don't know. It's a bizarre franchise for sure. But going into Abridged a little bit, when did you first discover it?
I'd seen it on YouTube every now and then because like back in the early days of YouTube when that stuff was everywhere, they'd pop up in your feed. And you'd think it was Yu-Gi-Oh! At first, and then you'd be like, oh, this is weird.
Yeah, I don't even remember exactly how I discovered it. I think I was just up late at night one day, and I was just going through YouTube on my iPod, of all things. And I don't know, it just came up at one point. I was like, what is this? And I think he was in the middle of the Virtual World arc, the bigger one. And I ended up watching through like all of it in a night. And shortly afterwards, I was like, oh, this Abridged thing is cool. And I started looking around and I was finding all these other Abridged series, and they weren't necessarily great.
No, because the Yu-Gi-Oh! Abridged wasn't done by like Team 4-Star, right? It was some other guys.
It was a guy, Little Karibo. He was actually the Yu-Gi-Oh! Abridged is the original Abridged series. Every other Abridged series stems off of it.
Right. That's what it is. I forgot about Little Karibo for a while.
Which, I mean, when you think about it, like indirectly, Yu-Gi-Oh! Kind of caused this big resurgence of interest in a lot of these older animes because of, he made the Yu-Gi-Oh! Bridge series, which is great, but that also inspired a bunch of other people to go out and make their own abridged series, which ended up with, Yu Hakusho abridged, Dragon Ball Z abridged, the most known one. There's a bunch of other ones. Like honestly, all the members, like the founding members of Team 4 Star, all had their own abridged series before they all came together and made the Dragon Ball one.
I mean, my favorite. This isn't an abridged series, but my favorite gag dub thing ever was Hank Hill and Yu Yu Hakusho.
Yep, I love that one.
They went really far with that, like a lot farther than I thought.
Did you ever see the way off topic, but did you ever see the video of somebody switched out Cell's voice with Plankton from SpongeBob?
Yeah, it works too well.
Way too well.
That's like this is completely off topic now, but that's like someone took the opening scene from Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer and they replaced the audio with the opening scene from Full Metal Jacket.
Jesus,
and it works way too well.
That's funny as hell. But yeah, Yu-Gi-Oh! Bridge has been going for a long time at this point. Actually, I think I saw something recently that he might be putting out a new episode soon. So that's exciting because he's currently on that last little tournament before the final arc in Ancient Egypt. So,
oh wow!
So he's already finished Waking the Dragons. I will say that the abridged series is one of the best things the abridged series did was make the Waking the Dragon interesting.
Yeah, I just remember a lot of Tristan voice jokes early on, and then making fun of Mai's boobs.
Yep.
Very goofy.
He didn't. He kind of went for the cheap shots back in the day.
Most of early YouTube was nothing but like crap like that, to be honest.
But he definitely honed his comedy style as time went on, and it works for sure.
Yeah.
Especially a lot of the Battle City stuff, like the later Battle City stuff, is great. But yeah, I definitely, anybody who hasn't watched it, I definitely recommend checking it out. Some of those early episodes can be a little rough. So it might not be a bad idea to start with Battle City.
Yeah. Yeah, the early episodes are they're great, but my God, you can tell that was definitely the beginnings of something.
Yeah. Not only was the beginning of this abridged series, but it was the beginning of abridged series, period.
Yeah.
So if you think early Dragon Ball Z abridged is rough, you should see early Yu-Gi-Oh! Abridged.
Yeah. Yeah, where they clearly it wasn't taken seriously at all, and it was clearly just a joke that he thought was funny, and then it ended up becoming something massive.
Yeah, for sure. But yeah, a lot of that stuff, like it's been a while since I watched it. Maybe that's what I'll do over the weekend. I'll just watch some abridged. It's been a while.
I think the last time you watched it was when I was over there one time and we were watching it.
It might have been.
I think it was still in the trailer at the time because it was right before I left.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, just on the subject of abridged series though, if you've never seen Sword Art Online abridged, it's absolutely.
I think we watched it at your place that one time as well.
It's fucking hilarious. It's one of those ones that it's great from episode 1. And that's something you don't see in a abridged series very often, if ever.
Another abridged series that's surprisingly great is Hamtaro abridged.
I didn't even know that was a thing.
Alex showed it to me once. It is anytime one of the characters falls down, it just cuts to this like deep voice going, "Kid." just like in the background. It is great.
I used to watch Hamtaro too when I was a kid.
I swear everybody did, because everybody remembers it.
I had a Hamtaro plush that I got for one of my birthdays. I don't know what happened.
I
think I had a video game too.
Was it Ham Hams Unite?
It might have been. I honestly have no idea.
I swear everybody had that game as well, because like I've heard so many people say, "Oh yeah, Hamtaro Ham Hams Unite. I love that game," and I'm always like, I need to find this game now, because apparently it's worth playing.
Wow. I don't remember it. I just remember them running from cats and shit. I don't remember much.
I remember that series being fairly decent for a kids show back in the day.
Wasn't it just pretty much like anime Wonder Pets?
Kinda, yeah. I know Alex watched it a lot.
Mm.
It was like that. It was also one of those anime that like you could kind of like get away with watching without being considered watching anime.
Yeah, because it didn't really feel like anime. It just felt like, one of those cartoon kid shows that has animals for characters.
It was kind of like Pokemon, how it didn't really feel like an anime, or even Yu-Gi-Oh to a degree.
Yeah. Oh, we didn't talk about how everyone used to call Yu-Gi-Oh a Pokemon ripoff, even though they came out like the same year.
And they're not similar in the slightest.
No. And what's funny is like, I mean, I guess you can make an argument because the Yu-Gi-Oh manga came out the same year as the first Pokemon game, and like Yu-Gi-Oh didn't really develop the card game until later, but it's still not even close.
No, they're not even. The card games themselves aren't even close.
No.
Like if any, Yu-Gi-Oh was like more of a ripoff of Magic the Gathering, and even then, that's a stretch too because they're not similar either.
Honestly, the Pokemon card game is more similar to Magic the Gathering.
Well, Wizard of the Coast actually, I think, published it for a while.
Oh, really? That makes sense then.
Yeah, Yu-Gi-Oh's. I think the reason why Yu-Gi-Oh became the phenomenon was because it felt so different at the time.
Mm-hmm.
Like Pokemon and Digimon, I get the parallels, even though those aren't very similar either.
Right.
Yeah, I never got the Yu-Gi-Oh Pokemon thing.
No, me neither.
I guess it's because they were just popular anime, video game, card game things.
Yeah, they were both popularized in the West around the same time. And but in both cases with the anime specifically. So
The anime, I mean, Pokemon always had the games, like, because the games have always been king with Pokemon. Because I still, to this day, like, I knew people that played Yu-Gi-Oh card game. I knew nobody that played the Pokemon card game.
Yeah. Yeah, it was pretty few and far between. I remember trying to teach myself how to play it once, and it just didn't work out.
Game Boy Color game, that's the only way.
Yep, that's how I ultimately ended up doing it. So
fuck the coin flips.
Yeah.
if you know, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah. Other than that, though, any other really Yu-Gi-Oh thoughts? Like,
not in particular. I think we pretty much covered it all.
yeah,
It's definitely interesting to look back on now. Yeah, I definitely gotta get those last few mangas because I want to read through the series because it's definitely way very much in the same way as Pokemon with their manga. The manga is so much more entertaining, much more like adult.
That's what I've heard.
So maybe at some point in the future we'll work on that.
Yeah, that's definitely a project at some point. I gotta finish reading Pokemon first. Hopefully, I'll have a week that doesn't go badly.
Yeah. Okay.
But yeah. So we made pretty good time with this one.
Yeah. I think if you take the first one and this one, it comes pretty close to our pilot.
Yeah,
if we didn't have a time limit last week, then we probably could have
done it in one episode. Yeah. Oh well, you live and learn. Thankfully, I don't have to work tonight or tomorrow. So
yeah.
But yeah, so once again, guys, thanks for joining us on Geek Addicts. You can find Geek Addicts on all your major podcasting platforms in its own feed now. And you can also find the episodes on YouTube with occasional, well, actually with video versions accompanying them, guys. And if you'd like, you can find all of our links at linktree/thebarbergames, or you can join the GNC Podcast Network Discord server to find all things gaming, collecting, Geek Addicts, 3DO experience, talk gaming, anime, manga, any sort of nonsense over there. And with that, everybody, we will see you all later.
Have a good one.